Texas in 2026 feels like a state caught in the middle of its own legend, a place where growth, change, and tension collide at every turn. People talk about Texas like it's still the same frontier from old history books, but 2026 shows us that the frontier now is economic opportunity, political upheaval, and cultural transformation. The population continues to swell as people from across the nation and the world choose Texas as their home, drawn by jobs, lower taxes, and the promise of a fresh start. This isn't a slow trickle anymore. It's a flood. Though official mid-decade projections remind us that the real dramatic population boom is still ahead, with migration driving most of the growth while fertility rates decline. Texans know this means both expansion and pressure on schools, roads, and public services. Economically, Texas was once again a headline maker as the year turned. Throughout 2025, the state established itself as a national leader in attracting business projects, more than any other state. And that momentum carries into 2026. The Governor's Cup was awarded to Texas for the 13th year running, a reflection of the sheer number of businesses choosing Texas for headquarters and expansion. In quarterly reports and press releases from the governor's office, leaders trumpet how a business-friendly climate and regulatory environment fuel a booming job market, drawing companies of all sizes and creating a labor demand that's among the highest in the country. With that growth, though, comes another story: the underside of rapid economic change. On social media and in grassroots economic forums, everyday Texans are talking about rising personal debt, especially auto loans and credit card balances that chalk up some of the highest delinquency rates in the nation. People wonder if the Texas economic miracle might have its first cracks. Consumer stress paints a more complicated picture than the glossy headlines about corporate expansions and new facilities opening across the state. Despite the economic boom, households are feeling the squeeze, and the discussion around personal financial stability is louder than ever. This year also ushers in a sweeping wave of new laws that took effect on January 1st, reshaping how business, technology, and everyday life work in Texas. Perhaps the most talked about changes involve artificial intelligence. Texas lawmakers, recognizing the rapid growth of AI tools within business and government, enacted statewide AI regulatory standards for transparency and accountability in AI systems used for employment, lending, and public services. Supporters champion the law as a balance between innovation and consumer protection, while critics worry about compliance costs for startups and small firms trying to innovate. New immigration enforcement requirements require most county jails to enter cooperation agreements with federal authorities, creating new local duties and igniting debate about community safety and civil liberties. There are also major property tax changes, with expanded exemptions for business inventory and limits on when school districts can raise tax rates without voter approval. A volume of legal change that feels unprecedented in recent years. Infrastructure development is another thread in the story of Texas in 2026. Massive investments in highways, ports, and transportation projects are underway as part of a long-term state plan backed by more than $146 billion to improve mobility and safety across the state. This includes projects to expand major interstates like I-20, eyesore, and Lifeline to commerce alike, with expansions designed to handle explosive growth in traffic and freight movement. These projects are expensive and disruptive, yet they reflect the state's commitment to build for tomorrow, even if that means years of construction for drivers and commuters. But the story of Texas isn't just highways and corporate relocations. There is a rising cultural energy, too, seen most recently in national media embracing the state's diversity and vibrancy. For instance, ABC's Good Morning America spotlighted cities like Houston, Deer Park, and Arlington as part of its 50 States in 50 Weeks tour, showcasing local food fusion, family businesses rebuilt after natural disaster, and scientific breakthroughs on personalized medical therapies. This highlights that even amidst debates about politics and policy, Texas remains a cultural crossroads where food, innovation, and community life leave an impression on a national audience. Education and community investment are also central themes. In suburban Houston, massive school district committees are considering multi-billion-dollar facility and transportation updates. Another sign that growth isn't just a number. It's the reality of shoring up infrastructure for kids, teachers, and families. Bonds of this scale, if approved, will touch every classroom, every playground, and every bus route in districts that feel the pressure of enrollment growth and aging buildings. The political calendar of 2026 also looms large. Governor Greg Abbott begins the year not just as the sitting executive, but as a major fundraiser in a contentious re-election cycle, entering the race with an extraordinary war chest to influence state politics and support candidates down the ballot. Local and state elections, from the Texas Supreme Court to the State Board of Education and county offices, are set to play out in November with primaries in March. These contests promise to shape policies that touch everything from agricultural leadership to legal interpretation to how local counties govern. Meanwhile, local controversies bubble up that underscore the texture of 2026. In Austin, a reality TV figure briefly announced a mayoral run before realizing the city's election calendar was 2 years off. An anecdote that became part of social conversation about civic engagement and the quirks of municipal politics, but also a reminder that even high-profile personalities can get lost in the complexity of local governance. In the world of business and industry, new projects are reshaping Central Texas. Samsung's multi-billion-dollar semiconductor facility is nearing full operation, representing a major shift in manufacturing and tech infrastructure that could have ripple effects for decades. Meanwhile, casual dining brands like Texas Roadhouse continue to expand aggressively, betting on Texas markets and aligning their growth with the redevelopment of major retail centers. Public safety and environmental initiatives are also part of life in Texas this year. Counties in the Hill Country received state funding to implement flood warning systems after devastating floods took lives and damaged property. The focus on emergency preparedness underscores how climate and weather events are increasingly a part of planning for local governments and residents alike. And as Texas builds for the future, it's also preserving its past. Artifacts from the historic 1836 Battle of the Alamo, like an original cannon rediscovered after decades, are being restored and readied for display, tying modern Texans back to roots that many feel still define the state's identity. Recreation and natural beauty aren't being left behind in this transformational year either. A new state park near Palo Pinto Mountains is expected to open in 2026, offering campsites, horse trails, and breathtaking views that remind residents and visitors alike why Texas is celebrated for its vast landscapes and outdoor culture. All of this, growth, policy change, politics, culture, and identity, plays out against the backdrop of Texans' deeply held values of independence, resilience, and a belief in opportunity. Some see Texas in 2026 as a land of promise where anything seems possible. Others rail at rising costs, political divisions, and strains on everyday life. But whether you're talking about booming business, controversial laws, or world-class events, one thing is clear: Texas is not standing still. It's a state in motion, a story still unfolding. And in 2026, that story is louder, broader, and more consequential than ever.